Aquarius 26, the hydrometer. Well, this is one of those measuring devices to do with batteries, and it indicates that we're trying to find a way to control the natural world. Control includes measurement. There's various aspects of how we control things, but measurement is most assuredly one of them. And that's what we're discussing here. The whole principle of technology, not just measurement, but the whole thing of how to control nature and whether to, and what happens when you do, and things like that. It's a big question. We're on the brink of species extinction, our own, because we actually have developed technology to the point where it threatens our very existence as a species. And some would say we shouldn't have stopped walking. You know, when the hunter-gatherer stopped walking around the land and became an agriculturalist and therefore owned property and therefore could collect things which they didn't have to carry anymore, and therefore could have slaves to work the land, and therefore could dominate the women in the same way as they dominated the slaves, and suppress that feminine aspect of the male psyche. All of that happened when we moved from hunter-gatherer status to farmer status. And it just got worse because then technology took over and we became machine operators, and now we're not really even doing that. We're getting robots to do that, and we're information freaks. But that development is inevitable. We're not going to go back in time, however much we really think that technology's gone too far. It's for us to handle how far it's gone, not to give it up, because we can't, we won't. It's just not reasonable. If you're running away from dinosaurs and you're starving and cold, then you have to deal with that, you know. You have to find a way to live within a harsh world. And so there is fire, and there is clothing, and there are tools, and so on. And that's the beginning of a process that's inevitable, because the mind of the human being is determined to improve its lot. We all feel it. We all take advantage of whatever comforts we can, because it's just natural for us to limit discomfort. And that leads us to the point where we are now. So whether we think is a good thing or a bad thing, it is an inevitable thing that we're going to have to come to terms with technology. And technology is inevitably going to be racing along faster than our mind can keep up with, especially if you're a bit older. It's very difficult indeed to know what's going on technologically after a certain age. And we have to. You know, that's a part of our evolutionary process. Part of the mind's job is to come to terms with current technology, whether that's learning how to light a fire in the very much olden days, or now learning what's the best mobile phone to buy, or how to make a video, or whatever it is nowadays. We have to do that. And the motivation for our doing that is not only overcoming the discomforts of nature and moving towards being in control of our environment. It's also to do with learning the operating principles of the environment, the reality in which we live. Technology is earthy, it's a physical reality. Even though it's electronic and rather spooky when it comes to quantum computers and so on, that lots of us don't really understand. Nevertheless, it is a physical study, because if it won't do anything physical, then it's not technological. So the whole study of how this physical reality works is eventually expressed through technology. So our understanding of the earth plane equates to our understanding of technology. and therefore how to overcome the dangers and discomforts of living in the natural environment. And we come to understand through this process that that part of the mind that deals with this kind of thing is the power of analysis, understanding things in a very clear way at root, and how they work in a formulaic way. If this, then that. In a physical sense, it's proven physically. And this power of analysis that the mind has is extraordinary. Without analysis, the mind is not powerful. Even artistic expression has a sense of knowing what works and what doesn't work. And we only get that sense of how to work things by having analysed our experiences. So it mustn't be thought that the side of the brain, the left brain kind of attitude to life, the analysis and examination and ability to control, and it mustn't be thought that that's not spiritual. An excess of it leads us away from spirituality, most assuredly. And today, that's how it is for most people. It certainly is for most governments, practically all of them, I would say. We've moved a long way away from the balance towards that side of things, and analysis and science and technology. But the only problem with that is the lack of balance, not the lack of technology. It's the balance that's missing. And in our own lives, we have to think, have we a fair enough, a workable, a good enough relationship with technology, and yet not too much of it? Can we use it for our purposes and actually resist the addictive quality that it carries? And we learn, therefore, not to treat technology as an enemy that we have to resist because it's destroying our environment. We have to see it as a teacher. And what it's teaching us, or trying to teach us, is how to resist our temptation away from balance, how to re-engage with the softer and more natural side of us to the point where we can handle both the natural and the technological in fair and equal measure. And this is the way we live now. It's pointless having nostalgia for a time 10,000 years ago when there were no things that could disturb us from a natural existence. It's just never going to come back. And it wasn't very much fun then, living constantly in fear. To live in fear is not a spiritual principle. And to be afraid of cold and starvation and wild animals gives us a disposition of violence, actually. We have to make ourselves safe of all of that if we want to live in peace. And that necessarily includes technology. So a little bit, fine. Too much, no. Too much is wrong. Too much is wrong of anything.